This is Karen, Grandmother Dances in the Night Skies. I'm here to talk to you about power stories. What's a power story? I tell you, the power stories that have come out of RTP and the power stories that my students have shared are just deeply moving. And the power stories that even I have felt over the years. First, when I first started looking at power stories, it's a shamanic teaching as well, although it is used in a whole bunch of different modalities. But the power stories, when I was first looking at them, I didn't think I had any power to anything. I haven't done anything spectacular. I haven't moved mountains. I haven't done anything. And when we allow ourselves to stop and actually think about every little moment, did you know that you have at least one, if not more, but at least one power story every day? Every day you have one power story. So just for a moment, think about yesterday. Just think about yesterday. What did you do yesterday? Did you face any conflicts that maybe you didn't think you could handle? Or did something come? Did you finish something? Did you do something? Did you celebrate something? What is one thing that you could say that you celebrated yesterday? The whole point of power stories is to get in our mindset of how beautiful life is and how powerful we are, and that we don't have to give our power to someone else. It's only a power story if someone else thinks it's a power story, or it's only a power story if it's earth shattering. And that's not always true. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I'm going to go way back a little bit back. Most people know who know me that my husband had a stroke, and he had a stroke about 2 months ago, and everything seemed to stop, right? So you get the diagnosis and your heart goes sideways and you go, what the heck? And that has actually turned into a power story for us, because not only did Charlie have to face some things, I too had to face some things. And we had to face the reality that, yeah, one day one of us is going to leave the other. But it also made us so very grateful for the moments that we have together, when we could stand and just hold each other and look each other in the eye and go, I love you and I love the time that I spend with you. And I know tomorrow's not guaranteed. So let's enjoy the moment of right now. We find ourselves being a little bit nicer to each other, because sometimes we can lose patience and be a little picky with each other. And right now, it's sitting in that, you know what, we don't need to look at it that way. When we look back at our life and you're having conversations with people, tell me about your life. A lot of times we go back to the negative stuff. Well, I was in a house fire when I was a kid, or this is with me anyway. I was in a house fire when I was 4. And the house fire itself was horrible and things were bad. And my little brother died and my mom had a nervous breakdown. There was some terrible things that happened. But there were some wonderful things that happened as well. I got to live with my grandparents for 2 years. I get to know my grandparents in a way that I would never have gotten to know them. I got to have a relationship with fire that is a little bit unconventional. I was allowed the privilege of getting to know fire a little bit more and making fire as my ally. I'd like to show you something for power. This is a power stick. A power stick. Anyone can make it. Kids can make it even. Go out there and find a stick that calls to you. Ask the stick if you can bring it home. Find one that's on the ground. Don't cut a tree for it. Um, and find this stick and then bring it home. And then you can peel it off if you want, which is what I did. I peeled the bark, or you can leave the bark all on, whatever you want to do. And then start thinking about the things that you've accomplished in your life. And I tell you, I could probably have 100 of these. But for this, I'm going to just talk about some of the things. For here, I've got the darkness, the brown, with all the nature and trees and painting. These represent the horses that have come into my life, the animals that have come into my life. I've got here, I completed a race that nobody else was at my age was allowed to go into, but my dad was able to pull some strings that he knew. And I had to prove myself that I could handle the horse in this race, and I was allowed to enter it. No, I didn't win. No, I didn't even come first, second, or third. But I didn't come in last, and I did complete the race. So that was a big challenge for me. Any little things that you do that you kind of hit a wall and you got, you know what, I'm going to dig in deep and I'm going to do it anyway. Driving a car. Did you know I could have made one of these for driving a car? I never used to get in a car. Oh my gosh, no, there's like three cars on the road. I wasn't going to join in the party. And then I started, my husband would take me every day to my shamanic training as I was unraveling and healing and doing the things that I needed to do. And he would sit in the parking lot and he would wait for me all day long and he would pick me up and drive me home again. It was a big burden asking someone else to do that, but he did that willingly because he cared about me. Still, it was a pain. And if I just wanted to get in the car and go somewhere, I would find a million excuses why I couldn't do it. And then finally, suddenly, one day, I got the challenge. Today is because I talked to my power animals, which is a power story in itself. But my what power animal challenged me to go all the way to Jasper. It was about, I guess, about a 2.5, 3 hour drive. And I drove it myself and I spent some time in driving around the mountains and sitting at the water and doing all that. And then I came home and I was felt really empowered by it. And then, do you know, a year later, I actually drove all the way to Salt Spring Island in BC. I went through the mountains and I went through a hailstorm. I drove at night. I drove a great big 1-ton dually with a camper on the back and I was able to park it on the boat and I was able to drive it all the way home. And I did it with power and with ease. Do I like driving? No. I still don't like driving, but I don't let it stop me anymore. It's like, you know what? I know I can do this. I'm not going to limit myself enjoying life because of the fear that I have to do it. And sometimes the power story can even be broken down even further. Let's assume you're going through a really bad time. And I know for me, my big thing when I'm in a really bad way is I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to interact with people. The simple act of getting out of bed, brushing your teeth, having a cup of coffee, and just saying, I'm here, that's a power story. It doesn't have to be anything bigger than that. But that was big in itself, just getting out of bed. When my first husband died, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to sleep in bed and I wanted the world to go by and I didn't want to acknowledge anyone or anything. The fact that I eventually got myself up and got moving around is a power story. So power stories can have all different depths, all different um, fun and exciting times. I went back to college. That's a power story. I quit school in grade seven. Grade seven, I quit school because I was more interested in things that I shouldn't have been interested in, and I wasn't going to school, and I was kind of getting myself into some trouble. And I went back as an adult. I went back when I was 32 years old. I went back to college and I applied as an adult student and I got in and I graduated the top 5% of my class. So how cool is that? And I went against the odds and I did it. Power story right there. What if you have an addiction and you face that addiction and you've conquered that addiction? That's a power story. What if you have an addiction and you faced it, but you fell off the wagon? Did you know that's also a power story? Because you got up and you gave it a try and know that you can do it a little bit further because the next time you start, you're starting at a new point. If we can look at it through the positive light, that's power. And when we sit in our own power, we give other people permission to sit in their power. So this weekend we had our weekend and we talked about our power stories in my group. And as we're all sitting around and sharing our power stories with each other, the one thing that everyone was so surprised at, I couldn't decide what power story to write about. What a wonderful thing to say, because that means that they're acknowledging that there's so many power stories. So maybe you want to even think about this because the new year's coming up. Get yourself a journal and every day write in what was my power story. At the end of one year, you have 365 power stories. How cool is that? And another way, I tell you, my animals teach me every day. So when I say that, I talk to my power animals and I talk to them and I ask them to show me a teaching that I needed to understand. So I could even understand power stories just from a little bit different perspective. And so what my animal showed me, his name is Congo, and he's my center power animal. He's the mountain gorilla. So what he showed me is he handed me this great big vine, and I had the vine, and every time I said something that I did that was positive, he stuck an acorn, but it was a big acorn on this vine. He stuck it on the vine and he put it on. And then I'd tell him something else that I did that was really cool, fun, something exciting, and he'd stick that on. And at the end of a 24-hour period, I had probably about 30 things on this vine. And he said, now could you imagine if you were a little kid? And he said, if I gave you a string and I tacked it to the wall, and every day that you do something, that at the end of the day, you talk about what you accomplished that day, what you, a new insight, something power, something that you did. And it could be, like I said, as simple as getting out of bed. And you put that little bead on that beautiful string that's hanging up. At the end of the day, you're going to start getting a week's worth, a month's worth, a year's worth, 365 beads of power hanging on that wall to remind you just how special you are. Because we're all special. We just have to own it, own that specialness. So then when you're looking back at your life, you're not looking at all the negative stuff, you're looking at the positive stuff. And as you're doing it, and I still do this, as I'm doing something and it's something that I've accomplished, I'll go, power story, just out of the blue. People kind of go, what? It's because it's like I want to take an emotional snapshot. Look what I did. Look what I did. Coming on videos. That's a power story. There was a time I wouldn't even look in the mirror at myself. And any pictures of me, boy, I'd be the first one cut out of those pictures. Now here I am in front of the world going, hey, here's me and I'm okay. I'm okay to be seen. That's a power story. So stop for just a moment and go, one power story. What's one power story that you can think of? Something that you overcame. And what's another one? And then if you're going, well, holy smokes, they got lots, that's even better. So the more power stories that we own, the more we acknowledge them, the more we sit into the essence of our self power. Not quite so easy to give it away. I don't want to have someone else take my power from me. I want to own my power myself. Doesn't mean I don't want to ask for help. Asking for help can be a power story. I can't do this alone. Can you help me? Absolutely. So even asking for help is power. Admitting that you don't know everything, that's power. Doing things so they totally fall apart, that's okay. That's power. I tried. So can we teach ourselves to look at the power of life? And can we teach the littles to do the same thing so that they are now looking at the power of life, the power of themselves, the essence of everything? So that's what I talk about with power stories. It is such a vital part of who we are if we would allow ourselves, grant ourselves permission to see the power in us. And that in itself is another power story. I tell you, the world is full of them. If you just acknowledge them, just look at them, have the courage to peek out from behind the tree and go, wow, I did that. Celebrate your victory. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be ashamed of it. And don't dull your light in others' presence because, well, they won't like it if I do that. Just shine bright. Because if we give ourselves permission to shine and to sit in our power, we give those around us permission to shine and sit in their power. And we aren't so quick to put other people down. We don't judge them. We're just sitting, you know what? I'm not going to judge you and you're not going to judge me. And oh, there's another power story, right? It's everywhere. So take a look around yourself. Where can you have a power and where can you own your power? And can you start writing it down or visualizing it or get yourself a beautiful long strand and then every time you do something that's a power, stick it on and watch those beads add up. And at the end of the year, holy smokes, are you nothing but a powerhouse? You are a powerhouse. I'm a powerhouse. Let's shine our bright and let's all be a power together. I hope. This is Karen, Grandmother Dances in the Night Skies. Own your power. You got it. I hope.